Purchasing of stock items or assets is dealt with in separate tutorials. In the instance of stock items, it's important to note that the stock is updated by the processing of the supplier delivery and of the goods received note, and that stock is not updated by the processing of the supplier invoice. In this video tutorial, we're dealing with the processing of other supplies, including consumable and service items, which by definition will not be stock controlled, and very often within the business are not subject to purchase orders. However, the procedure for processing invoices that are subject to purchase orders are much the same as they are for stock items, in that we do this through purchase invoices. Click New Invoice for Order or GRN and perform a search. Here we have the same screen as we would see for a stock item, where we can input the supplier invoice number, date, quantity, invoice value, and you'll notice that the system will recognize where the unit price is in excess of the purchase order and highlight that in red. And input the VAT value, then click Submit to process that invoice. The invoice is displayed on the Invoices listing screen. Where the invoice is not the subject of an order or a GRN, we click the New Invoice No Order GRN link, which takes us to an input form where we can input the details directly from the supplier invoice document. If we select this supplier, for example, and enter an invoice number and the date of the invoice, we can use this screen to illustrate some of the options that are available to us as we enter the various invoice line items. So if we enter first a stock item that we know to be a service item, delivery, then enter a supplier reference, their part number if applicable, a price for this item. Here we have the option to say if that will be a unit price or a net value for the line item. Use unit price and enter a VAT value. We must enter a quantity when we have used a unit price. The pack size is text notation only. We should note that the expense code has not changed on entering delivery as a service item. You'll note that we can assign that expense code to both project and departments. The next item to enter has been set up as a consumable item that in this instance updates the expense account code to one that was associated with that consumable item. That was not the case when we entered a service item. In that instance, the expense account code remained with the original default association that had been set up with the supplier. Again, we can enter a supplier reference. The price has been retrieved from the stock record but can be updated at this point. The same issues as above arise around unit price, net value, and entering of a quantity. One final example, make a new line item, and this time we're going to select a consumable item that has a prepayment flag on it. You'll note that in addition to the change expense code here, the application has now invited us to enter a start date for this item, so this could be the quarterly rent from the 1st of October. This will allow the application to allocate that cost based on calendar days to each of those monthly periods covered by the date range. 31 days to October, 30 days to November, and 31 days to December. In this case, because this is a prepayment item, you'll see that the price type has defaulted to net value, but we can enter our VAT as normal. Once we're confident that the details correspond with the supplier's invoice, we can click Save. That invoice is now listed with the others on the Purchase Invoices listing screen. Just to complete on that prepayment item, if we go to our accounts and run our profit and loss report for each of those months, you'll see a rental cost there: October, November, December. When the application processes a supplier invoice, it automatically assigns a purchase invoice number. We would recommend, as a matter of good practice, that supplier invoices are filed sequentially using the system-generated invoice number.